I'm Alison Dunn, Joint Managing Director of Chamberlain Dunn, who are the creators and organisers of the Advancing Healthcare Awards for allied health professionals, healthcare scientists, and most important today, those that work alongside them in support roles. Welcome to you all. Well, for the past 15 years, these UK-wide awards have highlighted the often overlooked contribution that these groups make to prevention, diagnosis, treatment, recovery and rehab. Well, we should by now have celebrated the winners of our 2020 awards, but it is coming up soon. It's virtual on the 16th of October, and registration's now open, so I hope you've all signed up. It'll be a different experience, but it'll be a fun one. Well, it certainly seems an age since that judging day in London in February. The gap has given us time to find out a little bit more about our finalists, what they've been doing during the COVID months, and how the world now looks. The gap's also given us the chance to recognise and record the incredible work that AHPs, healthcare scientists, and those who work alongside them have been doing during the COVID crisis. Our esteemed gallery, do go and have a look at it, has now over 200 nominations from teams and individuals who have risen to the COVID challenge, often in settings and in roles that are very, very far from their normal work. Well, before we get going, and we will get going, I want to say just a quick word about another spin-off from our 2020 awards, which is a publication called Making Health and Social Care Greener. It's a compilation of ideas and suggestions from many of our entrants in response to DEFRA's Year of Green Action. It is on the website, free of charge, download, and if you have a look at it, I'm sure you'll find a lot of ideas that maybe you can try out in your own place of work. Well, today we'll be hearing from the 3 finalists of the NHS Employers Award for Outstanding Achievement by an apprentice, support worker or technician. We're delighted that Michelle Wayt, Assistant Director at NHS Employers, is our chair today and will introduce our speakers and lead the discussion. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Alison. So, as you've just heard, my name is Michelle Wayt and I'm one of the Assistant Directors at NHS Employers. NHS Employers has sponsored the award for outstanding achievement by an allied health profession or healthcare science apprentice, support worker or technician for a number of years now. The award celebrates the positive contribution to patient outcomes made by apprentices, support workers, assistants and technicians working with in one of those services. NHS Employers believes it is very important to sponsor and support this award to enable the excellent work in these services to be recognised and celebrated. And it feels especially important this year following the pandemic, when we've seen multi-professional teams working together to provide outstanding patient care in extremely difficult circumstances. We need to recognise the staff who support our professionals, as without them, the NHS cannot effectively function. We also hope that this award helps to promote the potential range of careers within allied health professions and healthcare science, which are not normally considered by our local communities. The 3 finalists, Belinda, Linda and Gemma, will shortly be sharing with you some excellent initiatives that they've taken forward and which have had a positive impact on patient care and experience and can demonstrate some amazing outcomes. I think you will all agree that they are all worthy finalists, and I hope you'll join us on the 16th of October at the virtual ceremony to find out who is the worthy winner. If you would like to ask the finalists any questions about their work, then please add these into the chat box at the bottom of the screen. I can then put these questions to each finalist after each of their presentations. So first of all, we're going to hear from Gemma Hawtin, who's a physiotherapy assistant at Leeds Community Healthcare NHS Trust. Gemma has assisted children to use their wheelchairs and give them more independence. She took the lead in developing a wheelchair skills training course, which has resulted in increased confidence for the users. Over to you, Gemma.
Hi. I'm part of the community physiotherapy team, and we see children with developmental and neurological problems from age 0 to 19. We work in a variety of settings such as schools, homes, nurseries, healthcare centres across Leeds. Our work includes assisting with home and school programmes, orthotics, interventions such as hydrotherapy, rebound, and now wheelchair skills. I'll just share my screen. Can you all see that? Myself and Michelle, if you want to come in, Michelle, just because it was our both team effort. We both did this starting from the beginning. We came up with it just with another physio assistant, and we developed the wheelchair skills intervention that is delivered within our existing service capacity by physiotherapy assistant staff. This can also be used by education staff in schools by training them up. We provide a flexible child-centred approach which is tailored to individuals and schools. We subsequently produced an outcome measure to evaluate the course. The aim of the project is to provide wheelchair skill training package to increase independence and participation of the children who use powered or self-propelled wheelchairs. This will increase their independence and make sure they can choose what activity they want to do and where they want to go, which is what we felt was important. It's a fun way for the children to learn and develop and also improve their skills while playing games, whether it be at home, at school. This is what the problem was, so we made sure it was their choice. The waiting times were reduced from a year to 6 weeks within our existing capacity, which went down great because we can now move on and provide this. The provisioning is inclusive and accessible to all children, encouraging them to independently be mobile, which can develop their confidence. In recent times, we've developed a wheelchair skills package, which step-by-step guide, sorry, that can help with assistants and school staff. And the feedback we've got from the assistants and the physios has helped us daily in this. We saw improvements in a one-to-one and group sessions. Our waitlist went from a year to 6 weeks, as we've said, and from issued with a powered or manual wheelchair. Then we completed a 4 to 6 week block. This was all done by physiotherapy assistants. I'll just go through here. This is our 1 minute guide, and this is part of our outcome measures, which has been more flexible and is easier for us to assess what the child is like from start to finish. This chart here shows the general outcome measures in terms of what we achieved, and post every child saw an improvement, which was brilliant for us. We thought that this was great because it can transfer not just in schools and charities, but also hospices as well, which we recently found out, which was quite good as a separate training package. So there's always new things coming up with this. I'll leave you with some of the feedback on here while I discuss about how we did in the pandemic. The wheelchair skills and all of our other face-to-face went virtual. The interventions were put on hold, so we had to improve system ones, contacting families, virtual assistant blocks, emergency orthotics appointments, and training staff virtually in Hawtin, which I ended up doing. The team realised it was not going to be short term, so moving forward we trained school staff and also upskilling our assistant staff at the same time so we could deliver across the city. It empowered parents to assist children with their wheelchair skills using video recordings and video consults, as well as social distance visits. The outcome measure we produced can be used at the start virtually or social distance. We developed a 1 minute guide. This was quicker due to lockdown as it was provided for the needed opportunity. We are making programmes for schools to follow after socially distanced visit. The rest of the school will do the update if any problems, so it's putting it more in their hands. We will assist the wheelchair skills with the outcome measures, and the last session using technology or parents. We're still learning all the time though, because it's still a new thing for us to do at this moment. We're mixing it up a bit, so we could retain some of the virtual, but it'd be good to keep the face-to-face because we think that's important. Even if it's socially distanced, we think that the children need this. With regards to the future, we want to make sure we can share this and also work closely with our hospital, the Leeds Teaching Hospital, to coordinate when a child is issued with new wheelchairs and continue to discuss how we can make stuff better. We've already received good feedback. The children we are seeing in clinic are now keeping their wheelchairs and improving, is what LTHT have said to us. The improvement has been good, as we see families are happier as their children can develop independence and it's their choice. We look to offer schools virtual wheelchair skills training, such as Hannah House and Rainbow House, to make sure they can also be included in this. We still want to gather information because it's still in its infancy, so we've only got 10 at the moment, so we'd like to expand that to make sure it's still doing what it needs to do. Regionally, there's nothing on offer at the moment, so we're trying to be in touch with the CSP to see if there's anything out there, because I don't know what it's like, so it'd be interesting to find out. We'll always reevaluate throughout the pandemic and keep on making stuff better for the intervention. I've always moved with the times and changed if we needed to. The intervention will always be developing. I'm sure this is the start of more project work, as we've enjoyed creating an intervention that has been needed and now offered to families. It is very rewarding to see children become more independently mobile and making sure they choose their own way. This is the 1 minute guides on here, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Gemma. Really interesting presentation there. So we've got a couple of questions for you. Can the wheelchair skills also work for new adult wheelchair users adjusting to change?
Yeah, I don't see why not. It's probably very adaptable. It's a case of trying it really, because that's all we did. I kind of came up with 2 different methods of, because we wanted an outcome measure, so I made sure we had the outcome measure that was created especially for our kids, because we have a lot of developmental problems anyway with the children, so it was a case of, how can I put it, making sure it was tailored to their needs specifically. And it was 0 to 19, but you could try and adapt it that way. I don't know, it's new to me. It's the first time I've done something like this really, so it's a bit of trial and error in the long run, I think. But yeah, could give anything a go is what I say, because it seems to work.
Thank you. So recognising that each child is different, how do you assess their needs and change or adapt the course to suit them?
We do it in different environments. So we've done it in schools, we've done it at home, we've also done it in groups. Children respond differently. Some children like to do it one-to-one, and we get more out of a one-to-one basis. Sometimes they're better in the group because we have the younger children looking towards the older children. So they learn from that, and we're still developing that because we've only run, I think it's 2 or 3 years of this going ahead as a group session. And we do find that the younger ones like to look to the older ones for copying. And it's been fab just to see that happening. So it'd be nice when we eventually get the group sessions back on again. But yeah, it's very adaptable. Nothing's structured, it's as very tailored towards a child.
That's good. And obviously you've mentioned about how using the family in school and school staff. So what benefits have you seen when you actually involve everybody in the course?
It's good involving everybody, I think, because the school learn as much as we do. we think it's great because they can carry on what we've started. So we would go in for 6 sessions normally, and then they would carry it through for the rest of the term. Then we would obviously reassess at the end of a term to keep that going. So it works anywhere really with that, whether it be nursery, at home, the parents can reassess that, we can come back in. But yeah, it's been quite nice to see from a wheelchair point of view what we've done. But everybody works together, and it's great because it's nice having the rapport with school staff.
Okay, Gemma, and do you know if this work is being done elsewhere, e.g. in other regions? And what ways do you think you could discuss this with other trusts?
I've only been told that it's not been done in other regions. We picked it out because we felt there was a gap there, so I don't know what other regions are like. It'd be nice to know if any other regions are doing it, or speak to them maybe and see what they're doing, because I like sharing work anyway, so to have somebody else and find out what they're doing, it'd be great to know really. But I really don't know nationally what's being done. Been told there's a gap, so we're filling.
Well, hopefully this will be a way of sharing it with other trusts as well, so going forward.
Fingers
so
crossed.
that's a good thing. And then finally, is there anything you would like to do next?
It's a good thing is that I'd love to help other projects out and other work. This has been a stepping stone for me. So I'm learning myself, and making stuff better is something that I pride myself on this achievement in doing. So if I can help, I can do, which I will be helping out with another physio soon with another project. So it'll be nice to do that and carry on the good work.
Thank you, Gemma, and all the very best for the 16th.
Thank you.
So we are now going to hear from Belinda Rafferty, who is a children's therapy assistant practitioner at Hertfordshire Community NHS Trust. Linda has assisted children and young people with communication difficulties to have more of a voice by developing the Ask Me Communication book, which is a folder consisting of varying pictorial symbols, words and choice boards. Over to you, Linda.
Hello everyone. So yeah, like Michelle said, I work for Hertfordshire Community NHS Trust. So I'm OT and physio therapy assistant. So we treat children of all abilities from 0 right up to 19. And this is in a local community hospital, at special needs schools, mainstream schools, and within the community, so in their own homes as well. So it can range from providing equipment, delivering therapy, and just meeting all their holistic therapy needs really. So when I joined the trust, I came from a care background, and within care, we often used a lot of communication aids to aid communication with the children that we supported. And what I noticed within our trust, we didn't have any. There was nothing for these children to communicate with. So, you know, children that were unable to talk, or children that were just a bit shy, you know, it really isn't specific to the need of the child. It's just a real person-centered approach. There's no pressure for them to use them. It's just a resource there for them to use as a need, as needed really. So what I did, I used a software that these children are already familiar with. So it's called the widget software. So it's quite recognised nationally, and is used within all the local special needs schools, and just created a resource that was adaptable to the child's need. It was, you know, this is it here. So, you know, it's easily accessible. Within it are all kind of different symbols. So you can add symbols as needed, you can adapt it as needs fit really. So I'm just going to bring up my PowerPoint. One moment. Can everybody see that? Yeah, perfect. So like I said, it's a portable and accessible communication book. All the symbols are attached with Velcro, so it makes it easily accessible for the children and young people. The children and young people that access the special needs schools that also access our service are all already coherent with the formation of the book. And then in addition, there are different sentence strips like this, so that they can tell us what they want and how they feel. And then for children that are you know, struggle with so much choice, because I'm aware that there's lots of symbols on a page, we can break it down to 2 different options for them, just to make it a bit more simplified for them. So that's the book itself. So the reason this book came about, like I said, it was because there were no communication resources available for the children and young people within our service. And also there were various policies and national guidance that were in place that we just weren't meeting. So first and foremost, the NHS Constitution, so one of their values was that everyone counts. And really we weren't really projecting that, but with the implementation of the resource, it really does demonstrate that there is a fair distribution of resources, that we really do care about everybody. It really includes them, and it just validates that they are fundamental in the care. And then in addition, just which is quite relevant, was the NHS patient survey. So there was a survey undertaken with patients of children and young people about the care that they were receiving, and actually 57% of them felt that there was non-involvement of the treatment and care that they were receiving. So again, the book really supports the inclusion of these patients that are accessing our service. Sorry, I'm just going to go through, I'm just going to skip a few slides. So these were just some comments that were from children and young people that do have difficulties with speech, about professionals that they were receiving care from. I'll give you a minute just to read these, but these were some of the difficulties that they were having and how they really felt. So I'll just give you a moment just to have a read of those. So moving on from there, the implementation of the book now means that we are, you know, meeting benchmarks of care and policies and guidance that are in place. Another kind of relevant piece of guidance and guidelines that were not being met was the NICE guidelines for cerebral palsy in children and young people. So the quality statement 4 in the NICE guidance was that children with cerebral palsy were able to communicate effectively. However, they weren't, because there wasn't any communication resources to aid their communication when they were having difficulties. So they were really reliant on their parents and carers. So that's another example of the guidance that we are now meeting. So before the implementation of the resource, I really broke down what was needed to make this a success. So the methodology used for this was the fishbone diagram and the driver diagram. And it really just identified how I needed to make this a success and who I needed to liaise with. I'm not going to go through that entirely, but just that was the starting point to ensure that everything was covered and that it was a success. So after the implementation of the resource, I completed an audit of what staff thought. So they were asked questions prior to the implementation of the book and post use and implementation. So the findings from this really evident that the resource was a success. So I'll just demonstrate some of the findings from this. So some of the questions that were asked was, has the communication resource assisted you? And if yes, how? So physiotherapists, therapy assistants and OTs were all asked, and it was 100% feedback that it had improved, and the care that they delivered and how they assisted their patients. It improved their rapport, it improved communication. Here are just some examples here of what the staff fed back. the next question was, has the communication resource assisted your patient? If yes, how? So whilst the therapists have been using the book in practice, they have been gaining feedback from patients, and these are just some of the things that the children have said and how they've presented. So again, it was 100% feedback that it had improved and assisted their treatment for the patient. The child's more aware of what was happening. There was a more consistent approach. Children were more vocal, and actually one physiotherapist did say to me that they were actually able to treat a child, whereas before they may have had to discharge them because the communication barrier was so significant, they couldn't actually deliver the care. So that's another way how it's affected the care. And then one more example would development of communication resources to provide improved patient care and therapy, and they all agreed. So just some more feedback from staff. These are some examples that I've collated from the staff that have been using the book. So I'll just give you a moment just to read some of them. And again, there's a few more here that are just a bit more easier to read. Sorry, some of them are quite lengthy. So this, whilst you're reading that, I'll just update you on the implementation of this resource. So I've worked closely with the quality improvement team within the trust and the senior management team who gave their full support with the implementation of the resource. It now exists in every single clinic setting that we have across Hertfordshire where we treat children. And also the additional resources have been implemented in all the special needs schools within Hertfordshire as well. So that is where the book is at the moment. The book is really quite easy to make. It's all made by hand. It's quite a simple resource that doesn't really cost a huge amount. So the approximate cost of the book is £9.53. And as you can see from the feedback, the cost of it really does outweigh the impact it's having on the children and young people and their carers as well, and including the professionals that support these children and young people. So in addition, COVID's had quite an impact on the care that we've been able to deliver. So first and foremost, the PPE that we all having to wear, this has really hindered communication. So the children and young people have had, quite a difficult time understanding and, building rapport with new therapists because they can't see them, they can't hear them very well. So something like this to have to hand really has helped to improve that communication. Virtual sessions have been a hindrance as well, and also health impacts on patients, especially patients that have had COVID. So they have become more breathless or they have had communication challenges. So having a resource to hand that would take that pressure off of them to voice their needs and concerns when they're already breathless is invaluable. So the book itself has really helped with the rapport building during COVID. It's facilitated inclusion and clinical decision making and goal setting. And like I said, especially with people that are a bit more breathless, exhausted, if they've got a cognitive or learning impairment, and patients who are hard of hearing and struggle to communicate effectively, because those children and young people that are hard of hearing or, really are reliant on lip reading, we can use this resource to really help with what we're trying to communicate to them. Also, during COVID, some of our team were deployed to different areas. And actually the team that had been using the resource had recognised in our adult-based services that there really isn't anything there for them either. So that they have recognised the need for it in adult-based units as well, especially the discharge home to assess, the prevention of admission and the early supported discharge for stroke teams. They're just some examples of where our staff were deployed to and really felt that they really missed having the book to be able to communicate with their patients. So what next from all of this? So my overall kind of passion and drive is just to empower the patients. I'm willing to do anything necessary to get this book kind of out there and widespread. It's a really easy resource to make. The software's already there, you just need to buy a license. That's something that I've managed to get through multidisciplinary working. So we have a license for the software, but the Trust are also looking at obtaining a few more licenses so that other people can be involved in this project. It's really been quite widespread, to be honest. It's out there in all our notice board communications. It's also now in the engagement strategy for our trust. So it's included in the strategy. It's our accessible resource for our children and young people. And as you can see, there's quite a list of things that are coming up next. But yeah, so hopefully that kind of covers everything that you may want to know.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much for your presentation.
That's okay.
So just a reminder, if anybody does have any questions, to put them in the chat box. But I'll start off by saying there was some great feedback on that presentation from others. What key improvements have you seen personally since the tool was introduced?
So personally, from using it myself, it's really empowered the patient. It's really improved my relationships with the patients and their engagement. So regardless of their ability to speak, children that come for therapy, I find, are quite shy and a bit scared that if they've never had therapy before. So using the resource, I think, really breaks that barrier initially. And it's just enabled them to really get their voice heard and tell me what they want from their therapy. Even during therapy, like if they need the toilet and they can't tell me, they've been able to use the resource to tell me that they need a break and they need to go to the toilet. And my examples have been heard from other therapists as well. So yeah, there's just a few. I could go on.
That's fine. Belinda's asked, did you have support from speech and language therapist colleagues in the project?
Not initially, because at the time we weren't a joint service with speech and language. However, now we are. We've begun doing some multidisciplinary working with them and have got some speech and language therapists on board. But what I did do is I did have a kind of multidisciplinary team meeting with 2 speech and language therapists, an ASD specialist and a head teacher of a local school before creating and implementing the resource, just to get their kind of support, insight and feedback on my project. So they were involved initially, but along the way they weren't.
Okay, and just carrying on from that, are you thinking about training to become an allied health professional or like a speech and language therapist yourself?
I'm in the process, or I've just actually applied for an OT degree. So the Trust have rolled out the OT apprenticeship degree. So I've just finished a healthcare practice degree with the Trust, and the OT one comes out in February. So I've just applied for that.
Well, all the best on that, and it's
Thank
wonderful
you.
to hear that you're progressing with this career. So
Thank
all
you.
the very best, Linda, and thank you very much for your presentation.
That's okay, thanks.
So finally, we're going to hear from Belinda Clayton, who is an assistant therapy practitioner at Hertfordshire Partnership University NHS Foundation Trust. Hertfordshire's doing quite well here today, isn't it? Belinda has ensured the effective year-round use of the ward garden, including engaging patients to grow and cook herbs and vegetables to promote their healing properties of nature at minimal cost and with minimal waste. In doing so, she's helped with the recovery of older people with mental health problems. Over to you, Belinda. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, so Wren Ward is a 16-bed inpatient unit, as you said, for older adults with mental health problems. And I'm quite a tweeter, and I thought it might be quite a nice way to update you. I had a look through my feed, just to show you what we've been up to really, and how things are progressing. So can everybody see the slides?
Not yet.
Technical hitch. Sorry, bear with us. Share screen. Rachel has a backup if necessary, but hopefully that won't be necessary. So just bear with us a second, please.
It's not letting us for me, is it?
It's complaining about being shared.
Rachel, are you able to put the slides up, my love? Is she there?
Hello, Rachel.
I don't know why. Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Back.
You can all see that, I hope.
We can, Belinda. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Yes. So once again, I do love tweeting about what we're up to on REN, and so what I'm going to take you through were actually prompts from the photographs that I've tweeted since we came to see you in February, and it's a great way of showing you how COVID really hasn't stopped us engaging with nature at all. In fact, quite the contrary. Yes, we've had to entertain social distancing at times and staggering groups, but overall, working with nature has been just as much a part of our regular timetable, if not more so. So please, I hope you enjoy the journey. Oh, Rachel. Oh, sorry, Rachel. Next, please. So we begin in March when we planted our giant sunflower seeds, and this also formed part of an inter-unit competition, which has been really lovely for staff morale. And all seeds came from last year's crop and were originally donated from one of our HPFT volunteers. Next, please. So even simple labelling can provide a real sense of achievement and well-being, as was the case in this lovely group in March on a lovely sunny spring day. Next, please. This is some apple blossom that I found in our car park, and it formed part of our Easter tree. Next, please. So our raised bed had been in the planning for some time, but at least our older adults could work on a high level. They weren't actually planting in the bed yet. Next, please. Here, I recall how service users helped and supported each other. Apart from some COVID distance reminders, I really gave little direction or guidance, but that's fairly typical of how our gardening groups tend to run themselves. Next, please. Most of our service users engaged in this group, including several men, creating 13 stunning arrangements. Foliage is always taken from Wren Ward Garden, and even like the Easter tree, the car park can be a good source. So even with social distancing, with 3 to a table, people still come together, encouraging and helping each other. And again, several gentlemen took part in this group with some really lovely results. And we reuse equipment where we can to be as sustainable as possible. And arrangements tend to cost about £1 each. Next, please. And flower groups really lift everybody's spirits, and that includes all the staff. You can see here we used an abundance of purple sage from our garden, and the purple sage lasts quite well too. Next, please. It's a useful gauge of how someone's feeling when they can't wait to tell you how something's grown. And next, please. And next, please. And goodness knows what this was because the labels blew away. Next, please. Another great benefit of the raised beds is that they encourage activity and exercise. as service users must walk some way to reach them, not to mention invaluable time spent outdoors, which of course has been critical during COVID times. Next, please. One joy of using items from nature, especially during COVID, is that they can be discarded afterwards in an eco-friendly way, and there's no need for chlorine wipes. Next, please. And this is such a lovely thing to do, and that includes collecting the bits beforehand. And next, please. These summer arrangements included sage and thyme from the garden, adding a wonderful sensory element. And next, please. There's something in the garden for everyone. One individual wasn't too keen on gardening, but they took great delight in picking. And next, please. Yet another service user offered to pose for this photo. And next, please. And everybody enjoyed the salad at lunchtime. And next, please. One service user spent hours deadheading the purple sage whilst our groundsmen have been unable to visit. They also did lots of weeding and persuaded us to finally buy a decent garden broom. The value of access to nature can't be overestimated in terms of aiding recovery and leading to feelings of well-being. This was particularly poignant for this service user who lived in a flat, and during their time at Wren, they were inspired to obtain an allotment after discharge. Next, please. Others have worked on individual projects which have suited their own abilities, where they've had free rein to create and nurture barren patches in the garden. And next, please. Encouraging service users to work outside so they can gain a sense of achievement and pride can really be central to their recovery. And next, please. Curious to know what was going on here, I was told this was a cutting one service user prepared for another. This was such a touching gesture and the result of a most unlikely connection which really took me by surprise, and an example of the garden providing an opportunity for individuals to help each other and carry out acts of kindness which can engender powerful feelings of well-being. And next, please. And here are a few comments left on our occupational therapy evaluation forms since March, and the use of our recovery garden gets consistently positive reviews. And next, please, if everyone's finished. And the seasons remind us of jobs to be done as service users have already started autumn planting. And next, please. Next, please. No matter what the future holds, rest assured we'll keep you posted on all the wonderful things that are happening in Wren Ward Recovery Garden via Twitter. Thank you, and please do follow me.
Thank you, Belinda. I'm a tweeter myself, so I'll definitely be giving you a follow. So thank you very much for your presentation there.
Thank you. I must apologise. I realised our backup wasn't 100% up to date.
It's absolutely fine. We're already sorted. So again, just a reminder, if you've got any questions, put them in the chat box. But you mentioned there about how the flowers and things have uplifted everybody, really. So how have your colleagues responded to the garden?
There's been terrific support and enthusiasm. And in fact, a lot of my colleagues, I think they think I'm a gardening expert, which I tend to be, but I'm frequently approached when I'm out there. Where do I buy this from? Where do I get this from? I tell them that most of them are cuttings or donations. And actually, it's just nice to have that chat with the service users there present, so they can hear others around them being enthusiastic, getting joy, and seeing how this feeling can just spread. It's a real feel-good factor, spreading thing. So yes, really positive from my colleagues, and frequently they like to come and help in the groups, which is really helpful.
So also you've mentioned about people coming back to the garden. So how have you seen that assist patients with their ongoing recovery?
Sorry, seeing people come.
Yeah, so I think in your application form you said that even when you've sort of discharged patients, people want to come back and help in the garden.
Oh yes. In fact, we've had various offers of help. Obviously, we can't take people up on all these offers, but we had one service user wanted to design an arbour for our Wren Ward garden. We've had people very keen to come back and work in the garden and volunteer. But this is perhaps something we can do more going forward, really keeping that enthusiasm going when people have gone on.
Thank you. And what do you tend to do in the winter months when there's not as much things growing?
Yes, well, we can still do nature-themed activities. We planted herbs last winter, and that went down really nicely because we can then engage our service users who perhaps have a poor sight or hearing, and they can smell the herbs. So we don't stop. We really are year round, and actually using nature in art is a year-round activity as well. We can print with pine cones, this sort of thing. So the weather definitely doesn't cramp our style.
And what are your future plans? Anything that you feel like doing a next step?
I'd like to get more of our spaces available for individual use, I think, because this year that worked really well, giving somebody a little patch that they could make their own while they were here and really take ownership of that. And we're really fortunate in that it's a good sized garden, and we've got a lot of shrubs that grow in quite an out of control way, so we can afford to do some pulling up and creating more spaces, and I would really like to see that happen. I think there's a lot to be said with giving people little pieces of their own garden.
Oh, well, I look forward to following you on Twitter and seeing what happens, Belinda. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the finalists today, and I'm sure you will agree it's lovely to hear how they champion patient care and are all worthy of the NHS Employers Award for outstanding achievement by an allied health profession or healthcare science apprentice, support worker or technician. I again would like to take this opportunity to invite you all to join us on the 16th of October to find out who the winner is. And thank you to everyone who has joined us today. And I'd like now to hand back to Alison.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you for your brilliant chairing, really superb. What a fantastic way to spend a dull Friday morning. Very good, thank you. And thank you, of course, big thank you to NHS Employers for sponsoring and supporting this award for several years now. It's very important to us. Well, thank you, Gemma, and showing us the power of mobility, and Linda showing us the power of communication, and Belinda for, wow, the power of nature there. I love that. There are three really good projects, and I think they're highly transferable. I think you're going to be in great demand over the next few months to spread the word, because what you're doing is pretty unusual, and if not unique, and I think there'll be plenty of people who want to hear how they can do it too. This webinar is part of the series, and do tell people that weren't able to join us today or want to see some of the other webinars that they can be watched on our website. So there's lots more opportunities to benefit. The next webinar is on Tuesday, and it's the Chroma Award for Excellence in Neuro Rehabilitation. So join us then. Finally, many thanks to Rachel, Joy and Ellie, our in-house team, who've worked so hard to make these webinars happen organisationally and technically. They're brilliant. Thank you everyone for joining us, and enjoy your weekend. Bye.